Guys, on January 30th, Clayton Michael Joseph of Katy, Texas, a 35-year-old man, actually went online on his YouTube channel and threatened Joe Rogan's nightclub, known as the Mothership. Apparently, he went up there and on his YouTube channel declared that he was the Son of God, that he was going to go down to the comedy club known as the Mothership in Austin, Texas, and that he was basically going to do whatever he wanted, shoot up the club, whatever you want to say, and there was absolutely nothing that they would be able to do about it. Now, luckily, he did this on YouTube, and apparently the FBI and local authorities got hip to it, and so they ended up arresting him on the 31st, but this was a Harris County jury system or judge that ended up basically bonding him out, and he was basically out the first day or two of February. So imagine he makes these threats, they bond him out there in Texas, now he's back on the streets, and for all we know, he could be plotting his next moves so that he can do this in the future. I thought Harris County was in Houston. Apparently, whenever it's Harris County, whether it's in Austin or Houston, apparently it's a bad deal. They always let criminals out for hardly any type of bond, or at least a small bond, if you can kind of use your imagination. These are bonds where people tend to get out within a day or two. So for all we know, this could have just literally pissed him off, and now he really wants to go in there and do something. Apparently, though, Joe Rogan has a lot of Navy SEALs for buddies, and apparently they're part of his security detail when he goes out and when he's doing his podcast. And I would imagine, since this is his comedy club out there in Austin, I would imagine there's a good chance that they're part of the security force there as well. So I suppose if you're gonna go and attack a club with guns and stuff, right, come fully loaded and start shooting everywhere, I would imagine that these SEALs are the type that could actually stop that from happening, or at least take you out pretty quickly. With that being said, how awful is it that in this country people can literally threaten to do the worst, and all they're going to do is get a slap on the wrist until they actually do their worst? Seems like an awful thing that we, the people of the world that try to be law-abiding citizens, have to deal with. I guess the problem lies in the fact that people with mental illness sometimes say crazy things that they don't necessarily mean. I watched a crime and law video today, and it was literally this guy. He looked like he was about 20 or 21 years old, and he was telling the detectives that he would rather smoke marijuana than take his medication for his mental illness. And that when he doesn't take his medication, he wants to go down to the church and he wants to shoot everything up. And because of his mental illness, they ended up some way, somehow, getting him into a jail facility for a 3-year sentence. So then fast forward to this latest video with Joe Rogan. Apparently, this guy got out in a day or two. What was really sad about the 20-year-old is they were showing him talking to detectives and to the police, and he was being honest. He's like, yeah, when I don't take my medicine, I want to go shoot up the church, and I want to go take out 15 people at a time. And they go, well, can we trust that you won't do that? And he's all, yeah, I won't do it. I'm over it now. But you could just tell they were talking to like a guy that wasn't all there. Anyway, I would love to know your guys' thoughts. Is it just me, or do we live in a society where you literally can't do anything to the bad guy until he actually is a bad guy? Apparently, words are empty. I feel like if you make a threat against certain people in this world and certain entities, I feel like you'll get in a lot of trouble. But if you make threats to other companies and stuff, apparently nothing happens to you. It really seems kind of backwards. I think that's why some people believe in this, like the elites get special treatment. And I know what you guys are thinking, isn't Joe Rogan pretty elite? I don't know, maybe. Just seems to me like there's two sets of standards for things. And if you threaten somebody like Paul Pelosi in California or whatever, they throw you in jail and you never see the light of day. But if you do something to Joe Rogan's club when he just happens to be pro-Musk or pro-Trump, all of a sudden it's like we're going to let this guy out with a couple $100 worth of bail. Because, you know, whatever it wasn't a high enough bail amount to stop anybody. See, that's the thing with bail. They shouldn't put it up there so everybody can afford it. It's supposed to be so it keeps it where you're kind of stuck behind bars, or at least that's how I would see it. I know there's lawyers out there saying, Jesus, Jesse, why don't you throw away all of our rights as human beings here in America? But half the time, the lawyers are fighting and arguing for the bad guy. Golly, good people don't make threats like that. And there's a lot of good people that just happen to suffer from mental illness, but they take their medication and they don't get in trouble. And then there's other people out there that refuse to take their medication. They're okay with going on their social media sites and making threats. In the past, people would see this stuff, but no one would tell the FBI about it, right? Now we have it where the FBI and the authorities know about it right away. And instead of stepping in and saying, you know what, just the mere threat should be against the law, we end up letting these guys out so they can actually commit the crime that they threaten. So that, I guess that's my solution. If you go online and it's recorded and you end up telling people what you're going to do, even if you don't do it, that should be illegal. That should be enough to throw you into jail for a year and force you to get a mental health evaluation while you're there. Also, I think those people that have extreme mental illness, I think that maybe they should be limited from getting firearms. Well, it's Friday again. God, those weeks just keep ticking on by. They really do. It's getting kind of sad. I look on Facebook and it's like every time I look on, because keep in mind I only get on Facebook once in a blue moon, but every time I do, it's like a buddy's ill or a buddy passes away or a buddy's starting to go bald or get gray hairs. It just seems like once you get, close to your 50s, that's when everybody starts aging like crazy. That's why I always tell people, if this is your first time here, consider putting on your shoes and taking a walk with me. I'm a firm believer that if we walk every single day, not only will you find yourself a lot more healthy than if you wouldn't have, but who knows, maybe we can extend our life a handful of years. So why did this guy target Joe Rogan? Does he have Trump derangement syndrome and he doesn't like the idea that Rogan supported Trump? Does he have Elon Musk derangement syndrome and he hates the fact that Rogan is somewhat of a fan of Elon Musk? Either way, it doesn't seem like something that is going to go away. It seems to me like something that might get worse as time goes by. There's just too many characters out there that are just so mentally ill that they'll actually take a gun and shoot up buildings full of people. It's really kind of freaky. In that regard, we live in a world where you never know when your last day is going to come. A lot of times, right before I close my eyes at night, I ask the Lord, please take care of my family. Please protect all my family members. If there is no God, then I guess you're just throwing a wish out there on the universe. But if there is a God, I'm hoping that if he's going to ignore most of my prayers, I'm hoping that's one that he'll actually grant me. Wouldn't it be great if the last day you live on this earth, let's say it's in your 80s or something, you look back and some way, somehow your kids and grandkids all made it through unscathed to that point? I'd be a happy guy. That's what hurts me whenever I see bad things happen to people. I always think, golly, what if that were me? What if that were one of my kids? What if that were my granddaughter? You know, what if that were my mom? When you put yourself in that situation, it's really hard to celebrate bad things. You know, like when Luigi Mangione took out the bank CEO, there's a lot of people that genuinely rejoiced at that and thought, hey, that's our way of getting them back. I just don't know if that's the best way of getting anybody back, you know? But it just goes to show you, even when you're a $10 or $10 million earning guy each year, your last day might come at the hands of a Luigi Mangione. So again, I ask you guys, is it because Rogan supported Trump? Maybe his approval of Elon Musk? The media says that Rogan's fans are unhappy with how much he supports Musk. Do you guys think that's true? Okay, I'm just going to declare it. This is the most boring walk ever, but I'm really enjoying it. I was talking to somebody on the phone today, and I'm like, God, your job involves you working from home 8 hours a day sitting down, and so does mine. I go, but I try to walk all the time. And the person I was talking to was saying, yeah, I wish I could walk, but I just get too tired and lazy because all she's doing is sitting down and doing her work. And I go, I don't know if you heard about this, but sitting down at a desk for 8 hours a day is considered the new smoking. It's really bad for you. So I made her promise to try to get up a couple times each hour, you know, to stretch, go outside, get the sun on your face, and take a walk whenever you get a chance. And she said she would, which means I'm not doing nothing you tell me to do. Jason Trice says it's Austin, Texas. It's Democrat judges. Of course he's bailed out soon. Yeah, guys, imagine this guy making a threat on January 31st, or 30th, excuse me. They go and arrest him and take him into custody January 31st on New Year's Eve. And then imagine on February 1st, it wasn't New Year's Eve, January 31st, so we're talking just 3 weeks ago. And then imagine all of a sudden on February 1st, he's bailed out and he's a free man. Think about this, guys. Remember this name, Clayton Michael Joseph of Katy, Texas, a 35-year-old man. This guy might very well be making national headline news here in the upcoming weeks, because he might end up trying to actually finish the plan that he threatened. He might go shoot up the world. And people are going to say, holy moly, you guys knew about this and you let him out? And then here's the horrible thing. It's a Democrat judge that probably let him out, right? I'm just guessing. But what the media will do is they'll tell you, see, this is a Republican state of Texas. You see, these things still happen. And that's what's so screwy about our media. You can't trust them anymore. It's kind of freaky. When I grew up, I was under the impression that our media was something you could trust. But do you guys remember that old saying that you can't trust what you read in the newspaper, or don't always believe what you read in the news or whatever? Well, when I was little, I didn't really understand that the way I do now. A lot of the news that we take in is op-ed. It's opinion pieces. If everything you hear is just somebody's opinion, then have we ever actually gotten the news? I would argue there's a chance we've never gotten the news. Ask your mom and dad what they thought of CNN 30 years ago. 30 years ago, there were not a bunch of people yelling at the top of their lungs, "Orange man bad." 30 years ago, CNN actually was kind of just a vanilla news program that you could watch on cable TV. It really was. It was like boring Joe Schmo news. And for some reason now, we want our news to be just as exciting as movies, and the only thing that sells is when people are yelling at each other. It's really kind of bizarre. J.A. Velarde says, we need to charge the judge with a crime if this criminal follows through with his statements after leaving jail on such a simple bail. That's what needs to be done. See, that's the thing that's so scary. The world is used to looking at judges and jury boards as these really great, upstanding people that keep us safe. But the truth is, some of them keep us safe by putting criminals behind bars, others of them put us at peril by letting these people back into our neighborhoods. If anything, they should have made this guy's bond high enough where they could have maybe done a better, I don't know, a better investigation. How can you let this guy go 24 hours later? That does seem criminal. And you want to know something? If we do end up hearing about this guy becoming the next mass shooter here in the state of Texas, I think we're going to look back at this walk and we're going to say, they really need to do something about that judge. Make it where he's no longer allowed to do that job. Maybe take a look and audit him, see if he's crooked. I'm telling you, some of these judges really do kind of seem crooked. You guys might think, why do you always forget to write down their name? It's because I'm writing these as I'm working. Don't tell. Don't tell on me, okay? It's just between you and me. People protesting Elon's efforts at Doge remind me of the people who protested that movie, Sound of Freedom. How can they protest honesty and truth? That's the thing that's so creepy. You always have known that these politicians get these major kickbacks, and that's how they end up putting money in their own pockets, right? And then all of a sudden we have somebody that wants to legitimately put a stop to that. And you've got all these media outlets trying to find the best words possible to describe why they shouldn't be allowed to do that. Let me give you an example. We have 45,000 employees at the FAA. There's an airplane that goes down in Toronto, Canada, and every news company here that's against the Orange Man tries to convince you that it's Donald Trump's fault and that he's gutting the FAA. And then you find out that out of 45,000 employees, he only let go of 400, and they were all doing menial tasks that had absolutely nothing to do with the safety performance of these planes. So if that was the truth, why did the media even bring it up unless they're trying to deceive? And see, that's the scary thing. It's one thing for media to be opinion pieces, but it's another thing for them to just deceive us and act like it's no big deal and then repeat the process the next day. I'm telling you, I love my Democrat brothers and sisters. You guys don't deserve to have these people in this media that are always trying to fib and lie to you, hoping that you'll vote against the Orange Man. God, it's just really freaky. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to move over to the right? Scott Good says, that's insanity. People take politics way too seriously. I don't understand the hatred, but it happens all the time. I think it's scarier than people make it out to be. Think about this. You turn on the news at the end of your hard day's work, right? You kick your feet up. You're drinking a can of ice cold Coca-Cola, right? And on the news, it talks about some crazy guy shooting up a bar in a state that's, thousands of miles away from you. It's really easy to think nothing of it, right? But then as you continue to watch the news each night, you realize that these bad things keep happening all around the country. It's just a different state and a different day, but it's happening consistently. And all these people don't like things that aren't going their way, and they decide to take it out on somebody. And when this happens nonstop and the news puts it on TV every single day, pretty soon it starts to change your makeup. It starts to change how you view the world. And all of a sudden, it becomes really challenging to see this country as some wonderful place, knowing that there's judges out there that let criminals back out on the street, knowing that half the criminals that get out end up repeating and going right back in. And it's like this endless cycle where nothing ever changes. It just really makes you wonder, were we all propagandized into thinking there was something really special about this country? Meanwhile, we're all watching as it's going to shit. It really is. I live in a neighborhood, guys, Where 20 or 30 years ago, it was like the nicest middle-class neighborhood you can imagine. And now here we are just 30 short years later, and we've got homeless encampments surrounding us. We've got people that look like they're constantly about to keel over from drugs. It's crazy, and this is just a microcosm of what's happening all around our country. Meanwhile, nobody can afford anything because the prices are sky high, and all the companies are laying people off so that they can line their pockets and look like they're making better profits than they really are. It's really freaky to me. Pandan Bogey says Rogan hires Navy SEALs to protect his podcast, and they probably protect his club too. Whenever I saw Navy SEAL movies throughout my life, and I'm sure you guys have too, they have that one shot, one kill stance, right? In other words, yeah, they've got 1,000,000 rounds on them, but they only need one shot to take you out, right? And so imagine you go into a nightclub fully loaded with a bunch of weapons, right? And you take out your weapons, and right, you're ready to shoot, and before you even get a shot off, one of these Navy SEALs has put one right between your eyes. That's what's impressive to me about Navy SEALs. They don't really get freaked out by that stuff. That probably energizes them. They're like, oh, you think you're gonna come into our club, into our mothership? Is that what you think? And then we need to quit trying to give every Tom, Dick, and Harry criminal a third and fourth chance. Don't you guys understand? That's why the world sucks. We're gonna make everybody's life miserable, hoping that Joey comes around and wants to be a part of society one of these days. My thinking is, let's save ourselves and throw Joey away. That's what we really need to do. We need to start throwing these people away and just, ugh. JR says, how could you bond that dude out? I'll tell you how you can bond that dude out. We end up brainwashing people into thinking that we're the reason that guy made all those bad decisions, when in reality, some people just have evil in them. What we ought to do as a people is we ought to say, you know what? All evildoers, we're going to take you out of society. And we as a people ought to make a contract with America. And the contract with America ought to say, you know what? If I do bad, throw me in jail and let me rot there. We really ought to, as a country, decide that, hey, from this day forward, we're going to start doing the right things. Wouldn't it be great if there was no such thing as a murderer that got back out? All people that take someone's lives, you're going to go in prison for the rest of your life, and we're not going to mess with you anymore. God, those Harris County judges in Texas, oh my God, they are just the worst. They let people out for $500. They are, and then people applaud them like, oh my God, you guys are so fair. No, they're not fair. They're the reason that there's so many homicides in the state. So many homicides in that area. Harris County. God, if I met one of those judges, I don't even think I would want to have dinner in the presence of one of those judges, because I would feel like I was in the presence of a criminal. I just don't know how they can sleep and eat. How can you sleep at night knowing you let those people right back onto the street and all they have to do is pay $200, $300, $500? What a joke. What a joke. I'll tell you what isn't a joke. Your health. It's very important that you walk. I, believe it or not, am not going to lose sleep over something that happens in Harris County, Texas. What I do get upset about is that there's no reason why that can't happen here where I live, and it probably does. As a matter of fact, it does. Every time I turn on the news, it's somebody shooting another person, and it's literally right down the street. Pretty scary stuff. But what else is scary is that you don't need a guy with a gun and an attitude to make your life miserable. You're doing a pretty good job yourself by eating yourself to death. So choose life, walk with me every day. Let's start eating better, and I'll see you tomorrow.